Greetings and welcome to another APA Productivity Talk, a series of discussion with international experts on topic related to regional productivity enhancement for overall socio-economic development. I am Jitin Kapoor, APO Program Officer in the Industry and the Public Sector Unit. I will be moderating today's P-Talk on financing energy conservation for SMEs. It is with great pleasure that I welcome today's expert, Dr. Ali Muslim Syed, President, Applied Energy Consulting from Canada. Welcome, Dr. Syed, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much, Jatin, for this wonderful opportunity, and greetings to all the attendees as well. I am really looking forward to talking on financing the energy conservation for subject matter experts through the panel of APO.
Thank you. So let me give our viewers your brief profile, sir. Dr. Syed has a doctorate from the University of Calgary, Canada, in the Energy and Environmental Design and a master's in applied science in mechanical engineering. He is a certified energy manager, a certified measurement and verification professional, a lead accredited professional. Dr. Syed is also a prolific writer with several research publications and papers on energy efficiency and management under his name. For almost 2 decades, Dr. Syed has extended services as a consultant to industry in energy performance contracting, sustainability, and energy conservation. He is also involved in training and capacity building of industry professionals through courses specifically related to energy management. The Association of Energy Engineers has given Dr. Syed several awards. So let me move on to the brief on the today's P-Talk topic, that is the energy conservation for SMEs. Dear viewers, industrialization is important for overall socioeconomic progress as it contributes to GDP, generates employment opportunities, and raises the standard of living. Business processes in the industrial sectors, including manufacturing, services, hospitality, and commercial buildings, are energy intensive, and hence, industry is a major consumer of energy globally. However, that energy from finite natural resources like coal and oil, which have negative impacts on the environment through CO2 emissions and pollution. Those resources are vulnerable to price fluctuations, and adopting the energy efficiency practices has multifaceted benefits through the conservation of natural resources by reducing energy inputs at source, reducing CO2 emissions for a given output, decreasing energy bills, and enhancing business performance. This further cascades into improvement in energy productivity at a national level and contributes to climate change mitigation. Energy efficiency and management are prominent tools under the APO Green Productivity Framework, developed for strengthening the triple bottom line of productivity, human resources, and environmental performance. Dr. Said's P-Talk today will cover key aspects related to the financing of energy saving projects and approaches that benefit all stakeholders involved. Dr. Said, would you please start your presentation? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kapoor. It's very kind of you. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So thanks again for this wonderful opportunity to share the some knowledge that I've acquired over my career thus far on financing energy conservation measures for different sectors. So again, the overview, quick overview of the P-Talk would be to understanding the economics of a new project or a retrofit. And retrofit means an existing building or an existing energy-related project which we're trying to implement. We will be discussing briefly common economic tools like the concept of time value of money, the concept of net present value, some economic evaluation matrices like savings to investment ratio, I will be talking about different modes of financing energy conservation measures, and then an important aspect of any energy conservation measure sustaining the energy savings for long term is the accountability or measurement and verification. And I will be talking how that builds and to the overall economics of energy conservation measures. And then the whole goal of this, the gist of this conversation would be to equip you with ideas of how to select the best economic model for the energy conservation measures available to you, so that you can take a financially viable and wise decision while also conserving energy and mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions. So, continuing with the economics of energy conservation measures, so energy efficiency, obviously, the goal that if you're doing it as an individual or as an enterprise or as a government, is to make sure that you are working towards greener future, environmentally conscientious future, and environmentally friendly future. But also, these energy efficiency measures or retrofits have to make some financial sense as well, or at least show financial viability. A goal of an enterprise, and that enterprise could be an individual homeowner or a business owner or a consulting firm or a provincial or state government or a national government, is to make sure that savings that you obtain over the life of an investment should outweigh the cost that it incurred initially when you were making the investment. And role of a subject matter expert would be to, for any energy efficiency project, would be to perform economic analysis of the energy conservation measures at hand, and then select the best option. You could be given 10, 15 different options, but based on your specific economic standing, the capital at hand, the financial engine that you're running, an SME should be is expected rather to evaluate these ECMs, and then choose the one which meets the bill, basically, or in other words, which is the best option out of all the available scenarios. So, typically, and this is unfortunately a global problem, that the economics of energy conservation measures, the first thought that comes to our mind is that we should go with the lowest first cost. So, if I'm proposing you with an option A, say, I'm asking you to improve your building envelope, and with option B, I'm asking you to install very large quantity of photovoltaic cells. Typically, financial decision makers will go that which one is the lowest first cost, the option A or option B, and typically decisions are made based on that. One thing again with the maintaining or the lower first cost is basically you don't do anything, because unless you, obviously, if you're incorporating any energy efficiency measure, there is a cost associated with that. So one thing is to do nothing, and we all know that that is not best for environmental reasons and for economic reasons as well. And then the second thought process behind the approach that is the lowest first cost that financial people again think is that, is it worth making this investment, in the wake of the mounting energy costs? I mean, in recent past few months, at least in North America, we have seen more than 50% increase in the energy rates overall because of the global geopolitical situation. So these factors do affect your decision. So lowest first cost might not be the most sophisticated way of taking a decision. The next level of analysis that or thought process again, or philosophy that we incorporate for energy conservation measures is a concept called simple payback. And basically, simple payback is a concept where you do a quick calculation based on the potential savings that you're expecting out of your energy conservation measure or energy retrofit project, and then you find out that how many years would it take to pay initial money back. So, for instance, you initially went with I don't know, $100,000 of photovoltaic systems. I'm just giving an example, and you're expecting to get a saving of $20,000 per year. So simple payback would be essentially your initial cost, $100,000 divided by the annual savings, which will give you 5 years of simple payback. It is better than obviously the approach of lowest first cost, but there are still severe limitations with this economic tool. For instance, I mean, let's look at this example, a case study that again a project costing $100,000. In this case it is saving 22,000 US dollars per year, has a maintenance cost. Say you have to replace, assume it is a rooftop unit, HVAC system upgrade. So you need to replace the belts and pulleys and bearings, every now and then. So, and filters. So it costs you overall $2,000. And the lifespan of this unit is 7 years. What is SPP, or what is simple payback? So we simply do, again, as I mentioned, you look at the initial cost, $100,000, you look at the annual savings. So your annual savings would be $22,000, but then on top of that, every year you have to spend $2,000 in operations and maintenance. So that brings your simple payback to 5 years. Okay, well, at least it is based on something. But my question is, what if this ECM, where we assumed 7 years of lifespan, what if its lifespan was 8 years or 10 years or 20 years? How can this tool, that is the simple payback, quantify that? What happens to your initial investment after you have, it has paid itself back after 5 years? When it has paid itself back, what is happening after that? Simple payback cannot calculate that. So I'll give you another example now, a very interesting little anecdotal example. And again, system A, assuming it costs 12,000 US dollars, assume it saves 2,200 US dollars per year, and there's a lifespan of 7 years. Assume this is air handling unit A. I have another system which costs much more, which is $2,000, saves a little bit more, $3,000, but has a lifespan of 10 years. My question to you, and then you also assume the energy escalation rate of 5 years, and energy escalation is basically the typical increase or in the price of electricity globally. It can vary between 3 to 7%. Let's assume 5% as an average. My question to you, being an SME, if you're an SME and I am, say, I'm a building owner and I'm faced with this situation, I will go to my financial or life cycle SME and I will ask, I don't know. Both of them show some saving, but I don't know. Should I go with system A? Should I go with system B? What does it mean to have life of 7 years? What does it mean to have life of 10 years? Which system is better? So the point is that with the simple payback, if you look at the table, so I did a yearly breakdown. So please follow my laser pointer. So system A, 12,000 US dollars, system B, 20,000 US dollars. And these are the annual savings, and these are the cumulated savings. And these are the savings that, as I mentioned in the previous slide, that you will get per year. But again, in this column, we are adding them up. So basically, if you look at the system A, by the end of the 5th year, it would have given you savings which would have matched the initial investment. So it would have paid itself back. Okay. With system B, you have more savings. Obviously, you have a higher cost as well. And then when you accumulate it, so by the end of the 6th year, it will pay itself back. Now, following the simple logic of two-step, the first two methods we checked, number one, lowest first cost, and number two, the quicker payback. Let's take a decision. Let's find what decision we reach. So if we go with the lowest first cost, am I correct to assume that I will go with $12,000 investment or system A? Would you agree with me, Jitin?
Yes, Dr. Ali, I think because the first cost is less, and
Exactly.
it will pay back 1 year before.
True. And then if I go with the shortest payback, yes, it will pay itself before. So using those two methodologies, that is the quickest, the lowest first cost or quickest payback, system A qualifies. But there is an interesting thing. What happens after year 7? I mean, this system you have to replace. You have to get a new system, but system B is continuously working on and on and on and on, right? To the point that at the end, this is the total savings of 17,750 at the end of system A. This will give you 37,200 at the end of system B, life of system B. So the point of this exercise is that is, in this case, the simple payback the best tool, or the initial first cost the best tool to quantify or compare two different systems? I think not. Why? Because as I mentioned, system A has to be replaced at year 7, system B is still working. No way can either of the two methodologies quantify, what will happen after the life of the system A. Likewise, system B gives you an extra 3 years of saving. We could not qualify or quantify rather these things through either the lowest first cost or life cycle or the simple payback methodology. And most importantly, very important thing, the time value of money was not accounted for. So my question to my SME would be, or a question in other words that an SME, a subject matter expert, should ask is that which system A or B is better, not looking at these two quicker economic yardsticks, but looking at a more comprehensive way, developing a more thorough way of looking at the whole economic decision. That is one aspect of that is time value of money. What is the time value of money? So money, based on the economic mechanisms that are running globally right now, the time money has a time value. In other words, $100 today, or in your local currency uh, today in 2022, will not be the same in 2023. Why? Because it's based on interest or opportunity cost, right? So, and inflation. So basically, interest is that return earned on the money when someone else uses it. So there is an opportunity for any financial institution or an individual to invest this money in a way where within next 1 year, it will not be 100, but it could be 110, 120 based on whatever investment you make. And secondly, due to the natural economic cycles, again, a very different topic, but we all know that with the passage of time, the buying power of money also decreases. So based on many other factors, but these two main factors, that is the interest driven economic engine and inflation, because of many factors, again, outside the scope of this talk, the value of money is not the same, unfortunately, and hence both the lowest capital, initial capital, and the simple payback cannot quantify this factor. Again, another limitation of these things. What is an interest? Very quickly, it is the percentage rate that is to be paid for the use of money for a time. There are economic, when you look at economic institutions globally, there are different types of interest. Very quickly, the two main categories are simple interest, which are earned over the original principal amount. So say you borrowed $100,000 for an investment, and then you have to pay it back. So you have to pay back the interest only on the principal, that is the original amount that you borrowed, that is $100,000. But the compound interest, and that is the typically most common way in which the economics works today globally, that the interest is earned on the accumulated interest as well as the original principal amount. So it is definitely much higher than the simple interest. So obviously this leads to the value of $100, for instance, in 2022 not remain the same in 2023 or 2024, because there are opportunities of making interest on that. So this is a consideration which none of these two financial tools can quantify. That leads to, that is the changing value of money or time value of money, leads us to a concept called the present value. So I will, going, if you refer back to the previous example of system A and system B, so we were getting yearly, say, assume $10,000. So $10,000 savings in 2022 out of the energy retrofit, 10,000 in 2023, 10,000 in 2024, and on throughout the life of the project. But again, as we discussed, $10,000 of 2023 will not be the same as they are of today, or definitely the $10,000 of 2027 or 2030 will not be the same as at the time of the calculation when we're doing this financial calculation. So in economics, in energy economics, and overall in economics as well, there is a methodology in which you try to bring the future amount, reduce it or discount it to today's value, so that you can take a correct decision based on the actual worth of the money. And again, remember, $10,000 in 2030 will not be the same as $10,000 today. So you have to have a mechanism to bring that value down to today's value, so that you can take a decision based on today's economic situation and today's economic condition. So the value of the future amount in today's dollars is called present value. Why? Because you bring it to the present, not the future, so that you can take more correct and relevant decision in today's um, uh, economic situation. And how you bring it back, so you use discount rates. So cash in the future sum of money can be discounted, or in other words, can be brought to their equivalent present value using discount formula. Again, outside the scope of this discussion, but a rather simple concept. But there are you can use different formulae to bring future savings in today's dollars. And again, these two things are not accounted in the two mechanisms that we discussed. And more importantly, the discount rate is very often very company specific or government specific. Your government wants to make an investment, so they have their own decision matrices which they use to assess the viability of an investment made in any project, and also in energy. The discount rate can be called minimum attractive rate of return. Again, it's a more involved concept, but basic philosophy is that what is the minimum attractive rate of return that you want out of your investment, so that you can decide to put money in project A or project B or project C, and on and on. So basically, that is a yardstick which you use to, or any sophisticated organization, enterprises, and governments will use to take a good, wise economic decision on any investment that they make. This takes us to the next thing. And again, remember, we are still talking about the economics, the thought process behind investment, behind financing, how to quantify your decision, how to make sure that it is right decision. So typically, any sophisticated organization, and especially nations, national governments and international conglomerates, they work on a far more sophisticated economic analysis tool called life cycle costing. So life cycle costing, LCC or LCCA, there are different acronyms, but LCC, life cycle costing, is what I will be referring it today. So it is basically a method to assess the total cost of the facility ownership over its entire life, not over first 5 years or first 3 years. It is over the entire life, and the factors that it includes: design cost, initial cost, the energy cost, the operations and maintenance and training cost associated with that, and at the end of its life, the salvage value. So say you're a big cooling tower, it has done its life function, but it has some scrap value in metal. So even these factors are accounted into a sophisticated life cycle costing analysis. Energy escalation rates, discount rates, and many more factors. I'm quickly grazing through these. So this is a far more rigorous and far more realistic analysis of your energy economic decision-making process, in contrast to the lowest first cost or the quickest payback. So always default to the life cycle costing. Always default to the life cycle costing. Life cycle costing, obviously, as I mentioned, it takes all the future costs, operation cost, training costs, salvage credit, everything back to today's value. Oh, sorry about that. So again, this formula can be extended. So life cycle costing in today's value would be initial investment, replacement, residual values, energy values, water costs if applicable, O&M costs if applicable, any other cost if applicable, and this formula can be added it's you so always go with a tool like this to quantify, to take a decision, not any other tool. Net present value would basically, again, another concept in the life cycle costing is the difference between the investment that you make today versus all the future savings in today's dollars. So you are comparing apple to apple, not apple to orange. So basically, the present value of all the future savings till the end of the life of the project minus the cost that you're making in today's dollars, because that gives you a realistic comparison. And the evaluation criteria, if net present value is zero, in other words, if the savings that you realize over the life of the project and the investment, the difference is zero, then it means you're not getting any savings. If it is greater than zero, then it shows that your savings will outweigh or outdo your initial investment, including all time value of money and energy escalation rate and everything else into account. And for competing energy efficiency measures or energy conservation measures, system A is replacing your envelope, system B is installing PV. Between the two, whichever gives you the highest net present value from financial point of view, that is a better decision. So now you can appreciate that, compared to where we started from, how deep life cycle costing analysis can go and what are the benefits of using this economic evaluation tool rather than anything else. Another quick idea or concept is savings to investment ratio. So basically, for every dollar, when I just use the US dollars as a reference, to obviously it applies globally. So for any amount of currency that I invest, how much will I save? So savings to investment ratio would be the present value, again, of all future savings discounted to today's dollars versus the today's value of the money investment that you're making. And the evaluation criteria is that if the project has greater than one SIR, it returns you more than what it costs. And again, very simple, different ways of looking at the same thing, different nomenclatures, different parameters, but at the end of the day, all of them are looking at the financial viability of a project. So in a quick conclusion on the economic side of the things, that simple payback, while easy, has severe limitations. Life cycle costing has much more potential of detailed analysis. It accounts for inflation, interest, O&M cost, salvage value, and naturally, as an SME, please go by default to life cycle costing. No other option. I mean, it takes a little bit extra time, I understand, but you become proficient with time using this methodology, and it can be extremely useful compared to any other tool. So always default for any energy or climate related investments, always go with LCC, life cycle costing. Now that thing set aside, let's look at different financial or financing options for ECMs or energy conservation measures. So one very important thing that we really need to understand and we really need to appreciate is that if you know that your facility is not at its best performance, then remember that the cost of delay is typically always greater than financing cost, because if you know that your system is not performing well energy efficiency wise, but you're afraid that it costs a lot more money apparently to replace it, but the overall cost of this malfunctioning system is typically more than the financing cost. This is very important thing. So look at a broader picture of the overall economic impact of one wrong or malfunctioning energy system, and then you will come to the appreciation that it's better to replace that, even if on the very apparent look, it seems that financing cost is higher. So once we know that we have to do an energy conservation measure, we have to do a retrofit or do something in our new infrastructure. The simplest and easiest method is the cash on hand. So basically, if you have money in your coffers, you can simply invest that money. You don't need to go through any credit checks. You don't need to go through any interest. You are very quick. So basically, that is the easiest, quickest, and most economical method. Again, typically there are exceptions to that, but typically this is the most economic method for energy conservation measures. So number one mechanism for financing your energy conservation ECM is cash on hand. Second is loan. So most of the times, we are looking at far bigger investments, which an organization or a government or an enterprise is not willing to pay or doesn't have the capability to spare at the given time. So you go to your financial institutions or other investors and you say that, okay, we will borrow XYZ amount of dollars or your local currency, and I will pay you back over time. It's somewhat similar to mortgage. So basically, with the loan, and again, I'm oversimplifying it, it is far more complicated, but basically, you take the loan, say $1 million, you do all your energy related or climate related upgrades. Then the savings that you realize because of that energy upgrade, you use those savings to pay the loan back in installments, including the typically compound interest on the principal and the interest, and then ultimately, you pay the loan back. So this is the next mechanism. So first one was cash on hand, second is loan, third one is bond. This is a very interesting way of financing ECMs. And basically, large organizations and governments typically use their solvency or their own credit as a collateral. And they say that we will issue you bonds if you invest XYZ dollars. So for there is obviously a very detailed financial mechanism behind that. But if you buy bonds from us, we our credit rating and our solvency is in front of you. What we will do is that we will pay you interest, and at the end of the term we will return your money back to you. So capital is basically returned to the investors at the par value, which is an agreed upon market value of the initial investment. There are many layers of bonds, but typically these bonds are issued by governments, by large organizations. So say for instance, I am in Canada, right? So in Canada, if the government of Canada is issuing, it needs $1 trillion project, and say it cannot finance that, so it will issue bonds in the name of the Canadian government, where it will collect money from its citizens, and based on the collateral of the natural resources of Canada, the credit solvency of Canada, the credit rating of Canada. So based on this collateral, I will buy those bonds, and over the period of time, I will get some interest on that, and government will use that money which it collects to finance large scale projects. So typically, these are typically for large scale and corporations. That you And again, this is a statistics, very recent statistics from US Department of Energy, and these are the bonds that 10 states in the US have issued again to their. So in New York, $27.8 billion, and then down to California, Missouri, Massachusetts, 2.1 billion. So this is typically a mechanism that governments, large scale entities use, very safe, but again, it has its own limitations. But nonetheless, that is an option that is always present there. Leasing is another option. And what is leasing? So for instance, I know that I need a chiller for 5 years, but I know after that I'm running a mining operation, I need a chiller, and after 5 years I won't be needing it. So what I can do is I can lease that project chiller for 5 years, and then at the end of 5 years I can give it back. So it is kind of a rental. I mean, again, it's oversimplification. It is kind of a rental agreement where I obviously pay them monthly or yearly or quarterly or whatever cost arrangement. I pay the the leasing organization or authority an agreed upon money, and then I can use that equipment. And I know that after 5 years, I mean, it doesn't make sense to buy $10 million piece of equipment which I will be only needing for 5 years. So what I will kind of rent, quote unquote, or lease it. Again, it's not purely rental, it's more complicated, but at the end of the term, I won't own that equipment. I have to return it back. It's very similar to leasing a vehicle. But then there are the types of lease, the true leases, where basically you end up giving the equipment back and you don't own it. But capital lease, again, there are many layers to that, but it is kind of treated like a loan, where there is a possibility for me, if I'm a leasee, I have an option to own that equipment at the end of the term. And then there are arrangements, or there are legal requirements again in different nations. There are different, that how much, what is the term of the lease, how much payments I have made by then, how much is that in contrast to the total capital, like the cost of the whole thing. So basically, that is another thing, which again, leasing is an option for your energy conservation measures. And the final one is ESCO, which is the energy savings contracting. So ESCO contractors basically come to your facilities, your industrial infrastructure or your building infrastructure. They identify, they install, and they operate typically your systems, and then they give you, they extract savings out of the inefficiencies, they remove the inefficiencies, they give the savings and guaranteed savings to you. And that is how this is an energy savings contract. So it's a very technical and it's a very interesting model. So basically, ESCO or customer, so say I am a property, a real estate or infrastructure owner, and ESCO approaches me and it says that we will contract with you for 15 years. We will go find energy inefficiencies from your system, remove those. We may invest, or they will ask me to invest, or both of us will invest. But then at the end of the day, they will guarantee the savings. There are legal stipulations if we don't do that, so they have to guarantee savings of the investment. And then at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation for all. Very powerful system for the right types of projects and for the right circumstances. So it's basically a performance-based contract. So I am hiring an ESCO, so they will guarantee that they will save my energy by 25%. It's how they do it. They will hire their engineers. They will work very steadfastly on that, but they will make sure that they give me the saving, and it's legally, contractually bound. I will evaluate the performance of the ESCO based on certain key performance indicators, and my payment to them, or any penalty that I incur to them, is based on those KPIs. So again, there are many mechanisms. This is just one. I'm the customer, this is the ESCO contractor, and this is the bank. So bank can give loan to me. I can lend that money to contractor. Contractor installs that project and guaranteed savings, and then I pay my money back. Or it can be directly that contractor will finance all this thing and there is no bank, or maybe bank will give loan to contractor and it will work for me. So there are dozens of mechanisms of this ESCO. This is the most simple one, where I get money from bank. Contractor, I give money to contractor. Contractor installs energy savings mechanisms or systems in my infrastructure and guarantees savings, and we are all, in a win-win situation. ESCO can be, there can be other models in which ESCO can build and operate the facility during the contractual terms, 10, 15, 30, 20 years, whatever, and then transfer the ownership to me. Or I can have a system where an ESCO, it's a large road project, for instance. So ESCO will build it, ESCO will own it, and ESCO will operate it for me. I'm a government and I'm giving this project to them. All the savings that they realize, all the money that they make, it's theirs. But I'm taking the benefit of that project. Or ESCO can be design for me. I'm the owner. They will design the energy system for me. They will build the system for me. They will finance it for me. They will maintain it for me, and they will operate it for me. Or it could be a P3, public-private partnership, where I will take private enterprise, I will take the government enterprise, and both of them will combine their financial resources, and then we will build projects. So again, there are many stakeholders involved, and this is a very successful methodology of financing. Or there are many other hybrids of these, or more combinations. But basically, the gist is that there is a contract involved in which there are guaranteed savings that ESCO will provide through either of these contractual approaches, or a hybrid of these. So in other words, basically, if I don't do anything, this is my status quo. So this is my cost, because I'm not very efficient. I hire a contractor, an ESCO contractor. So ESCO contractor will guarantee this amount of saving, and this will reduce my ESCO will reduce my budget by X%, and then the savings will be used during the time of when I have to pay my finances, my debt back. So I will pay certain amount of those savings towards the debt, certain amount towards M&V, and certain cash flow. And through this cash flow, maybe I will get some savings, or maybe ESCO, because obviously they're investing so much there is, so maybe they will be skimming this part for their own business case. And when the ESCO contract term is over, say after 5 years or 10 or 25 years, I will own this whole infrastructure, and I have actually, from this initial stage, I have reduced my energy to this point, and this is all the savings that I will realize for through the life of the project. And this is again one method of ESCO. This is again out of public domain. So in the US of A, so there is a children's hospital, 15 buildings, close to 1.5 million square feet. Project cost was $4.8 million. So it was an ESCO project. So contractor came in, they did the design build, they did the demand side management, they did the energy efficiency, and they guaranteed $950,000 of annual savings. 5.5 million kilowatt hours, 17,000 million BTU, and 12 million gallons of water. This is again one example. There are far bigger, scope of projects, but basically the contract type is this. This is the facility. This is the cost that, in this case, perhaps the ESCO contractor invested with this much savings, and then obviously any savings beyond that. This is where ESCO businesses make their own financial viability. M&V, measurement and verification. So obviously, if I am claiming that I'm an ESCO, say I'm an ESCO contractor, and I guarantee $25,000 savings per year, I'm just making a number up. There has to be an independent entity to verify that what I'm doing, is it actually happening? Am I really sustaining all these savings? Or kind of an accountability. So one use of measurement and verification is the quantification and then verification of the savings, and adjust the variances due to facility operations. Say, I said I will save $25,000, but all of a sudden I'm a manufacturing plant and my production increased twice. Obviously, the baseline has to be changed now. So M&V will change that baseline. Or due to COVID, there were massive, people like shutdowns or people working from homes, remote. So obviously, occupancy reduced. How that affects my cash flow and my overall energy savings, whether it is a very severe, very cold year or very hot year, how did that affect energy rates globally? Something happened and then energy rates changed, how will that affect? So basically, M&V is a discipline where you quantify and modify the contractual stipulations or energy savings based on the real-time conditions that are happening, which were not seen at the time of the project. And then this M&V, measurement and verification, helps negotiate between ESCO and customer. So as a customer, I expected $25,000. ESCO is not able to give me $25,000. So an M&V will come in and understand that, yes, because occupancy was reduced, operations were cut down by 25%, 30%, and hence they could not make so much savings. So that will help negotiate the contract. So it's kind of a real-time project management, in a way, an energy project management mechanism, the M&V. And annual M&V costs is obviously, annual M&V is required for any good ESCO contract. If you're spending millions of dollars, you have to have an accountability matrix, and that is the the M&V. There are different protocols of measurement and verification. So these are two, one from the US Department of Energy, other one is the International Performance Measurement and Verification Protocol. So I will strongly suggest looking at these resources. Most of them are free, or at least part of them are free, and then they're very cheap to buy. So please have a look at these two resources. Some best practices of measurement and verification is obviously proper submetering plan, statistically accurate sampling of data, calibration of your energy measuring sensors, weather normalization if it is an unusually cold or unusually rainy or unusually droughty weather, adjust your energy savings protocol accordingly, regression analysis for data accuracy. So, making sure that your data that you collect is accurate against an independent parameter again could be weather, and doing statistical analyses and making sure things are on the right track and properly calibrated. And again, routine calibration in your M&B plan for changes in occupancy, like we recently experienced in COVID, or weather anomaly, or equipment shutdowns, and things like that. So these are the things that you use to make sure that your M&B is doing is working properly. Funding resources, there are many funding resources. I'm just naming a few, especially global, in the global context. World Bank, they are always interested in developing, helping nations develop their infrastructure. They offer loans. Asian Development Bank, USAID, and your national governments, your private investors. There are other mechanisms too, but these are the main ones that I strongly suggest or urge you to look into your local jurisdictions and your in your nations, and see how they can help you. And also, you can try different ESCO contracts as well through local national banks or even private investors. So, all in all, I would conclude that energy management can be cost intensive. Of course, it can be, but the use of right financial evaluation tool is extremely important, so that you can have a better picture. I mean, not the lowest first cost, not the life cycle, not the simple, quicker payback, but the life cycle cost, so that you can fully appreciate how important it is, looking through the right lens and then coming to the right financial decision. And financial evaluation should show you that the net cost savings over the life of investments outdo or outweigh your initial investment. And always do economic analysis for a thorough energy management plan. And then, as an SME, always suggest the best recommendation that you can find. And these are resources. You're welcome to pause this video. These are some resources that I found very helpful in my practice. And at this point, I will conclude my presentation. I will hand it over to Mr. Kapoor.
Thank you, Dr. Syed. Your presentation deepened our understanding on how SMEs can leverage financial tools and mechanisms, as well as the best practices in implementing various energy conservation opportunities to enhance their resilience and mitigate climate change. So let us now start with the questions. To start off the questions, with the COVID-19 pandemic deeply impacting businesses globally, especially for the SMEs, how can energy efficiency contribute to the business continuity?
That's a very good question. So, with the COVID-19, how it has affected us globally, energy efficiency has become anything but more prevalent and more relevant. Why? Because energy efficiency is a great way to reduce your business expenditure, your business overhead. So obviously, if you're incorporating energy efficiency into your businesses, it will reduce your business cost, business overheads, and that is naturally an extremely conducive approach towards resurfacing after this pandemic. And increase your cash flow, because it makes financial sense. Obviously, it's a huge benefit to the environment and climate, and also with the reduction in your operating costs and efficiency improvements in your processes is very helpful. And this is perhaps a very good time to strongly start your energy conservation processes.
Thank you. Thank you. So, at a global level now, if you see, to what extent does energy efficiency contributes towards meeting the UN SDGs, and to be specific, the net zero emission targets, which have recently been a new buzzword?
Yeah, no, a net zero target, I understand it's very challenging, but it is achievable. So, with the Sustainable Development Goals that United Nations has put forth, energy efficiency, again, strictly talking in context of the Sustainable Development Goal 7. I mean, there are many individual things that are directly tied into energy efficiency and renewable energy. So, like ensuring universal access to the affordable, reliable, and modern energy services is one of the clauses. So, obviously, if you are planning to introduce or penetrate a lot of renewable energy into your infrastructure, definitely it is very conducive towards meeting the goal number 7. Likewise, by 2030, you want to increase, or you're mandated rather to increase the sustainability by increasing the renewable energy in the global mix. So obviously, a higher integration of renewable energy into your grid infrastructure is extremely important, and it is all tied to energy efficiency and helping us reduce the impact of climate change. Then doubling the rate of improvement in the energy efficiency, so that is the core, clause 7.3 of sustainable development goal 7. So obviously, the more energy efficient you go, the more energy savings you realize, more cost savings you realize, and more emissions reductions you realize. So all in all, energy efficiency is tied very deeply into goal number 7 and many other goals. There are synergies in so many goals, and main thing that I really feel that will be very conducive would be the access, the energy access, energy equality, across the globe, and helping, especially with the, some developing nations. There are a lot of children and women are exposed to very toxic air quality because of the way the food is cooked. So even, ensuring that through renewable energy there are more environmentally safe and, healthy options for cooking will ensure alleviation a lot of health related issues. So all in all, energy efficiency is a multifaceted tool which is tied into many of the sustainable development goals. And I strongly urge, to look at a holistic view, take a holistic view of the energy efficiency, and then help globally, to reduce, to meet our climate change targets.
Okay, thank you. So let's now deep dive to a question at an enterprise level, maybe from an SME owner point of view. So how we have discussed on the various ways in which we try to finance the viable energy conservation projects. But would you please also elaborate on the importance of carrying out the energy audits when deciding to start the viable energy conservation projects?
Yeah. So energy, thank you. That's actually a very relevant question. The thing is that I always look at the energy management and energy conservation from the standpoint of the existing building and industrial infrastructure versus the new green certified infrastructure. So more than 97%. Again, the number could be a bit off globally, but in certain European and, North American regions, the existing infrastructure that is pre these green certification or more aggressive, programs. So what that tells us is that there is a lot of opportunity. There is a big room of improvement for energy management in not only your new, but mainly your existing infrastructure, because it still represents a far bigger proportion of your overall energy end use. That being said, the only tool that tells you where your buildings or your industrial infrastructure is in terms of its energy performance compared to its peers or compared to where it should be is the energy auditing. So energy auditing is your first step towards, first of all, realizing what you need to do, quantifying what savings are possible, and thirdly, doing a quick cost analysis of what would it cost you to do those retrofits. So again, depending upon the depth or the resolution of energy audit, using ASHRAE's yardstick, so ASHRAE level 1 or level 2 or level 3, you can energy audit is an invaluable tool, perhaps the only tool, in my humble opinion, which you can use to scan through your infrastructure, find the energy inefficiencies, suggest the energy improvements, and do a cost analysis of those upgrades or retrofits. So energy audit is basically the heart and soul basically, at least in the building and industrial infrastructure, of any energy management plan or any energy management strategy, because it helps you to quantify, to measure where your energy use is, what are the inefficiencies, and obviously, without that data, we cannot manage anything. So it is very crucial, in my opinion.
Thank you. Uh, Dr. Ali, you have talked about the ESCOs, and what I understand is they are very successful business model when we talk about the Western developed economies like the US or the Canada. But how do you view the scope of the ESCO business model in the Asia Pacific region?
Yeah, ESCO again is a good, very good way of energy saving for the right type of projects, and it's not regional specific. Again, North America, primarily USA and Canadian government, they experimented with it because, and perhaps due to high prevalence of ESCO projects, it seems that it is more of North American phenomena, but it's not. It can be implemented anywhere, and with the Asia Pacific region, especially, your governments, most of your regional governments are very forward thinking. They are very open to the idea of energy conservation, and very interestingly, most of the Asia Pacific regions are also very vulnerable in terms of the potential climate catastrophe that we could face if we do not take some mitigation actions. So basically, it's just a matter of more capacity building, more training, more public outreach, and once people understand the mechanics of an ESCO project, you will find that it is a very safe, very viable, or potentially very viable option based on your particular project, especially if you're looking at some support in terms of financing or in terms of technical capabilities. So, say I have the money, but I don't have the technical know-how how to improve that energy efficiency. Then ESCO can be one model where they come in with their technical experts and they guarantee savings. So legally, again, based on your legal construction of your contract, it can be very safe. It can be a win-win situation, and I strongly suggest that Asia Pacific, being a very growing region, and with a very prominent role in the global energy use or contribution in the global energy use, I think your government should look into the ESCO models, and again, benefit from other nations and other regions which have experienced this model and had successes or some stories to tell. So I suggest that, um, based on the successes that this model had in North America, again for the right type of applications, um, Asia Pacific region should try it out. Again, do the financial viability, and I believe that with the right type of ESCO project, you will enjoy it. You will really enjoy it. It's a very good way of financing large scale projects.
Thank you. Now, moving towards a question from the perspective of the policymakers, which resources or trackers can policymakers refer to while gauging the impact of energy conservation projects on energy productivity, specifically at a national level?
Yeah, at the national level, there are many ways, many yardsticks, but globally, I would say that UN's Sustainable Development Goals, obviously, the targets that they have set, you can use those as your trackers, basically, to track your performance. You're on the front of energy conservation or on the front of greenhouse gas mitigation. That is one tool. Secondly, regionally, I one thing that I think is important, that since each nation, each region, each economy is so unique and so different from the other, that there is no one size fit all solution. So I suggest that your national governments and your relevant departments of environment and energy, each nation should develop its own workable energy management plan for the long term. And again, a very good template is UN Sustainable Development Goals. And there are many other success stories, especially from Western Europe, certain regions in North America. So again, cross pollination of ideas. You can learn lessons from what other nations and other regions have achieved. So, basically, a main template, as I mentioned, Sustainable Development Goals should be your main tracker, and then please develop a regional specific, nation specific, and economy specific energy management plan which suits your need. Again, what works in USA perhaps will not work in the UK, or what works in the UK will perhaps not work for Kenya, because very different regions, very different economies, very different energy infrastructure. So I think nations have to come in and take this thing very seriously, develop a specific, workable, tangible goal using templates that UN has provided, or from cross pollination of ideas, and then develop your own pathway or roadmap.
Thank you. Dr. Said, your informative presentation showed a holistic approach to a more sustainable future and energy transition. Do you have any final message to our viewers?
Definitely. First of all, again, thank you very much for this great opportunity. My message would be that energy efficiency always makes sense. It is very good for your economy. It is very good for your job market, for again economic stimulation, for your local industry, for your environment, for your future generations, and globally as a species. We have it is incumbent upon us to take climate change and energy efficiency very seriously. But my message would be that please don't be deterred by an apparent capital intensive nature of certain energy efficiency projects. Always use the right tool. So if you're using the right economic tools for the evaluation or taking the decision or a decision for your energy management or energy conservation, then you will see that things which may look very intimidating or may look very like impossible are manageable. And for that, the takeaway would be that always use a more sophisticated and rigorous method like life cycle costing analysis for any energy conservation project, because that will give you a very comprehensive look and a very realistic look, and it will help you take right financial decisions for your energy conservation.
Thank you. Thank you for giving this speed talk, Dr. Said. The APO looks forward for your cooperation and guidance in future as well. Viewers, please leave your questions and comments on today's topic on the APO's YouTube channel, and we will respond to you as soon as possible. Please also subscribe to and follow our YouTube channel for continuing updates on the current productivity issues and resources. Stay safe and productive, everyone. Thank you and goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.